Hey everyone, Jamie McDonald, Olympus Visionary here, and I'm here to announce the release of the brand new Olympus Pen EP5. By the time that this goes live on YouTube, the embargo on this information will have lifted, and I am now allowed to talk about this incredible camera. Now, let me just start off by saying that this camera harkens back to the look of the original Pen F camera that is actually 50 years old this year, so I think that the design influence obviously is paying homage to that iconic look. And something to mention too about this camera is that the build quality of this, it kind of sets the bar for any mirrorless camera manufacturer from this point on. Machined from a solid block of metal, it's just incredibly rigid, and I don't want to say heavy, but it's solid. Let's just put it that way. It's a solid camera. And it's not weather sealed, but for goodness sake, the way this thing is built, I wouldn't be surprised if you could get out there and in the mist and not have to worry about it too much. I'm obviously not recommending it because it isn't billed as weather resistant, but the design of this camera and the quality and the tight fit of everything on there, the close tolerances used in the machining of this thing, it could probably stand up to a little bit of abuse. Some things to note about this camera right off the bat are, let me pull up some images for you first so you can see them, then we can kind of go over them as I go. So here we're looking at the back of the camera, and you'll notice that in this view you can see you've got your rear dial that'll allow you to kind of scroll through different settings. Everything, like all the other Olympus cameras, is programmable on this. Let me get to another image here. Not doing this very well for you. There we go. Okay. There's white with a tan grip, silver and black, kind of reminiscent of what the OMD looks like, and black here. This is showing it with the newly announced VF4 viewfinder, which we'll touch on that in a minute. You can see in this view too, underneath the shutter button here, we've actually got the a secondary control wheel, which if you're one of those people that's going from a DSLR and this is maybe like a backup camera, or if this is something that you're going to get in addition to, say, your OMD, the addition of this control wheel, this function wheel, is going to be a godsend, because you know how Olympus likes to make the menus customizable. This is just one more way for you to get in there and navigate your options. Another design touch that I think is pretty cool is it's actually etched on the front Olympus pen. I just kind of like the look of that. It's not only retro, but it's just a good design choice. Again, these are all press kit photos that just kind of give you all the different views of the camera. We're not lacking for any of the functionality and function buttons on the camera. Here we see the pop-up flash extended on this. This flash sync speed is actually 1/320th of a second, and it also allows you to command off-camera flashes like the FL600R, which gives you some pretty cool capabilities there for off-camera lighting. And again, we're just kind of cycling through all the different color combinations. I know it gets a little bit redundant to see the same thing over and over again, but I just want to share with you all these different gorgeous pictures of this camera. Another thing that I kind of like here is the placement of the on-off switch with a toggle. I kind of like that personally. The flip-out LCD on this, it's the 3-inch touchscreen display that you're familiar with. Only this time you can actually access this little nook over here on the side. It's not really visible from this view, but it allows you to pull out the screen a little bit easier than on, say, the OMD. On the OMD, you had these little serrated edges up here at the top to help you grip, and then you'd usually, well, I would anyways, I would use index fingers up here at the top edge and then my thumb down here at the bottom to help flip it out. if you were situated on a tripod, it wasn't the most convenient way to get at the flip out LCD. Now you can actually access it from the side a little bit easier. Again, just another one of those little design touches that make things a lot nicer working with this camera. And again, I mean, I don't know if everybody wants to see a big high-res shot of the sensor, but there it is for you. Another thing to note too, in the OMD, the 5-axis image stabilization, which this camera actually has built into it, was housed up in the faux pentaprism that you would find up here. Somehow, I don't even know how the engineers at Olympus managed this, but they actually eased it into this little space right up here in the body. It's pretty incredible what they've actually accomplished with this. Here's a close-up of the new VF4, and you'll notice right here, those should look familiar to you who own the OMDs, that's the proximity sensor, just like you would find on the OMD. And again, that's just one of those convenient touches where when you're pulling your eye up to the VF4, it activates so that you're not wasting battery by having it powered on all the time. A few little performance notes, a lot of which you probably will have heard about from various rumor sites and earlier leaks that weren't technically official. The shutter speed on this camera, the max shutter speed, is 1/8,000th of a second, which is pretty impressive considering that you normally don't find that on anything other than a DSLR at this point. Not even like the OMD, which was the premier camera at the time, was limited to 1/4000th of a second. So 1/8,000th of a second, I mean, obviously you're going to be able to freeze pretty much any action that you've got going on out there, short of freezing bullets in the air, I guess. A big benefit of that, though, for me personally, in my landscape photography, is being able to shoot in really bright conditions, and shoot in brighter conditions with like a lower f-stop, like, you know, f2 or something like that. If I need that really crazy shallow depth of field on a bright day with 1/8,000th of a second, I can get that. 9 frames per second continuous shooting. I don't think there's another mirrorless camera out there other than the OMD that's doing this, especially not something the size of the pen line. This also does have the 5-axis image stabilization like the OMD does, and something to note about the 5-axis image stabilization on the E-P5 that isn't present in the OMD is that the camera will now detect if you're starting to pan while shooting. So what happens is it detects that you're panning, and it will disable the vertical image stabilization, so you don't have to worry about it'll disable the horizontal image stabilization, so you don't have to worry about the image stabilization trying to correct for your panning and giving you a blurred shot. So you'll be able to pan and get the motion blur that you want in the horizontal in the horizontal aspect and not the vertical, because the image stabilization will still function in the vertical mode. Excuse me. Another cool thing too is the startup time on this camera. You're looking at like 0.5 seconds. I know that most of the other camera manufacturers out there are not even remotely close. I think some specs for like the Sony Nex 6 are like 2.1 seconds. I don't know, the EOS M is like a 1.5 seconds. You know, so 0.5 seconds, it kind of gets you from sitting there to in the action in less time than you're probably even ready for, to be honest with you. I know a lot of personal friends of mine are 4/3 users and are heavily invested in the regular 4/3 glass, and not fully transitioned into micro 4/3. This sensor actually is seeing some performance gains using the regular 4/3 lenses. You know, just some estimates here. You know, the 14 to 35 f2, which is an insanely incredible lens, they're getting like around 20% performance increase with that lens. The 50 to 200 2.8, 40% increase in focus speeds. I mean, that's pretty impressive. The 12 to 60 is up like 30%. So I mean, you know, these are some pretty significant performance gains for those of you that are still, you know, tethered to your normal 4/3 lenses and haven't fully transitioned over to fully to the micro 4/3. Another cool feature that this has is something that I've been really looking forward to. The focus point on the screen, we now have like a super spot autofocus point, and that focus point basically becomes like 1/70th of the diagonal length of the screen. So it's a really extremely refined focus point. I don't know how better to explain it other than the focus box that you currently get on your OMD. Imagine that shrunk significantly. So for those of us that like to shoot macro, or if you're focusing on the eye of, say, a small bird, I've been trying to do that a lot lately, it makes those tasks a whole lot easier. Another really cool, exciting feature is focus peaking. Everybody's been asking for it. Well, it's here now, officially here. It's not here through some backdoor method of using the art filters to do it. It's actual focus peaking. You get the option of setting your peaking display to either black or white. And so for those of us that like to use legacy glass, rather than having to use the magnify mode to refine our focus, we can use focus peaking. And for those of you not familiar with focus peaking will basically give you like a highlight wherever your focal plane is at. So just imagine if you have like your shadow and highlight indicators turned on your display. You know how you get those flashing indicators where you've got blown out areas? Well, imagine the indicators, except those indicators are showing you where your focus is at. So it makes manual focusing a treat. Some other things to note are, again, you know, it's the same 5-axis image stabilization that is found in the OMD, again with the extra added benefit of when you're panning, it knows that you're panning. It knows how to correct for that, which, you know, I think that's pretty cool. Again, I touched on it earlier when going over these pictures. You know, you've got the two dials. You know, we call it like 2x2 dial control. Again, there will be like probably a more detailed description of it. I'm sitting here looking at my press kit that I technically can't share with you these images, but it just goes over showing you the amount of customizability that you get now that you have these two control wheels. And you've actually got like a function lever. So you know how you've got your function buttons normally on your camera. On the back of the camera in some of these pictures, you could see that there is a, and of course I closed all the images out. There's a little lever that toggles back and forth between a 1 and a 2. So you can set custom functions and toggle between an almost unimaginable amount of customizability options here. I know I'm kind of stammering on and on about this. I'm just really excited to be able to share some of this information with you. The VF4, it's your external viewfinder, even better. It's a higher res display. You get the free angle tiltability of it, which is pretty cool, and of course it's like the VF3, it's lockable. Another cool thing too is, so let's say that you are let's say you have your flip out LCD flipped out and you're composing through that, and you also have the VF4 viewfinder attached to your camera. On the OMD, if you had your flip out screen out and you moved too near the viewfinder, the proximity sensor saw that and interpreted that as you trying to look through the viewfinder, so it shut off your live view display, which is kind of a pain in the butt. Now with the E-P5 and the VF4, when the VF4 is connected and you have your flip out display flipped out and you're using that to compose your shot, anything that gets near the VF4, it will not shut off your live view display. It knows that since you have the flip out display flipped out, that you're actually using that to compose and not the VF4. So just kind of one of those little things that they jumped in there and fixed that that I know was one of those little nagging issues for me. I think one of the biggest things about this camera though is the built-in Wi-Fi. The reason I'm so excited about this is because I've been using the iFi card a lot lately, and I personally haven't had too many problems that I've had. You know, I've had a few issues here and there, I'll be honest. I love the product, but it's, you know, it needs a little bit of work still, maybe, you know. But now you don't need to worry about setting up and connecting your Wi-Fi card to your camera and all this other stuff, because it's actually in your camera. Or I'm sorry, I mean connecting your Wi-Fi card to your phone while it's in your camera. It's just a few hoops you got to jump through to do that. But the way that the pen is set up is really cool. On the back of your display, you'll have a little, on your 3-inch LCD, you'll have a Wi-Fi icon that you can touch. When you touch that, it'll bring up a barcode. Not a barcode, sorry, that's kind of retro, isn't it? It'll bring up a QR code. The QR code is displayed on the back of your camera. Then you launch the Olympus Image Share app on your iOS device, whether it be your iPhone or your iPad or your Android device, phone, tablet, what have you. You launch the app and you scan the QR code. And simply by scanning the QR code, behind the scenes, the connection is made between the two. And not only is the connection made between your camera and your device, it also sets a wireless profile. So once it's set up, it's set up. You don't have to go through all this stuff anymore. What that means is that you've got your initial connection set up. The next time you go to use your camera, you enable the Wi-Fi and launch your Olympus Image Share app. They just automatically connect. No going through and changing your wireless to the wireless in the camera and all that stuff. It's just gravy. It's so cool. Now, what can you do with it? This is where it's really exciting. Not only can you transfer images back and forth, and movies back and forth. We're talking JPEG and RAW file, videos that you've created. So I hope you have like a 64 gig iPhone or something, because you're gonna fill it up quick. You can also transfer time lapses. That's something that I forgot to mention, isn't it? The E-P5 will do time lapses. It maxes out right now at 99 frames. Because I think that the reason it's maxing out at 99 frames is because not only will it do the time lapse, it actually compiles it into a movie within the camera, which is pretty cool. So anyways, let's go back to the Wi-Fi. So you can transfer all your images and movies and time lapses from the camera straight to your phone, and then share them from your phone, you know, Instagram, whatever. Just don't share them in the UK, right? Because you kind of lose rights to them. Anyways, so that's one feature of it. Another one of the cool features is that your tablet, iOS device, what have you, now acts as a live view display of your camera. So what are you going to use this for? Well, for me, I've been trying to get images of a pair of nesting Carolina wrens at my home. They've taken up, well, had taken up residence on my porch, and I was trying to get photos of them through various means. Through a wireless remote, which, because I wasn't getting line of sight where I needed to be, I never got shots of the birds. I tried using the Trigger Trap, which is a great product, and they have a feature that does motion detection, and for whatever reason I just could not get it to work. It kept false triggering, and I was blowing through, like, you know, 32 gig SD cards full of pictures of nothing, so I gave up. Now with the EP5, I can just set the camera on the tripod, synchronize the two by opening up the my app, see the live view display. I can see what the camera sees as long as I'm in wireless range of my camera. So I can come inside, I can sit at the table, drink a glass of tea, browse the internet for a while looking at my tablet, and there it is on my tablet. I can see that the birds have landed. Now I have the touch to focus and touch to snap photo feature that I have on my 3-inch LCD available on my iPad. So touch to focus and take the picture, boom, I'm done. It's totally cool. Another cool feature too is we were talking about pairing up your phone or tablet or whatever device to your camera. You can actually have 6 devices paired to it. And where that gets kind of fun is maybe say you're at a party, you know, and you can set the EP5 up on a tripod like in the corner of the room, you know, with like the 9 to 18 millimeter or the 12 millimeter, something with a really wide field of view. And then you can have 5 other friends all synced up to your camera, and just randomly throughout the event, you know, people can snap photos as they walk by, or when they see an event happening, maybe you don't see it, and other people can get involved, and you can kind of turn one camera into like this big social sharing event. Kind of a really cool idea, I think. And you know, I'm sure this is just the beginning of where wireless is going in cameras, and I know that Olympus is definitely there, kind of leading the way. And I think that's probably about all I really have to share tonight. I mean, You know, there's probably going to be a million sites out there breaking the news. And I guess before I go, there's just one other thing that I kind of want to mention, because I'm one of those people that likes some of the other features of the cameras that Olympus has been putting out lately. You know, like the art filters. I'm a big fan of those. Olympus has this thing built in called Photo Story. I don't know if you're familiar with what a diptych or a triptych is, but it's basically just think of an image that's broken up into 3 separate frames, and each frame can contain a different image or a different part of a scene or whatever. You can actually do that right within the camera. Again, without showing you too much, I'll drag it over. I'll probably get in trouble for doing this, but so imagine creating something like this in your camera. I mean, how cool is that? You don't even need Photoshop or Lightroom or something like that. You know, you can actually go right in and custom build these collages right within your camera. And you know, and if you're shooting JPEG and you build, you know, I mean, you create this in your camera, and via your Wi-Fi connection to your device, you can send this right to your mom or your grandparents or whatever, and share it with your friends on Facebook without having to leave the camera and go to Photoshop or Lightroom or some other editor. It's just one of those cool things, you know, that I think that they're putting out in cameras, and it's just, I'm really impressed with stuff like this. I keep saying a lot, and I apologize for that. It's kind of late, and it's time for me to go to bed. Again, thank you for stopping in and listening what I had to say about the new EP5. In case you can't tell, I'm extremely excited about this camera. I have totally ditched full-size DSLRs and have been living with OMDs around my neck for the past year. And now it looks like I'm going to be living with an EP5 around my neck. And my OMDs are probably going to get a little jealous. So with that said, get out there and get shooting. Don't forget to share. I am all about the social side. So just drop me a line. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe and share this with all your friends. And I will see you shooting out there sometime, I hope. Take care.